Hey everyone, this is Dr. Hillary Hushower from Rangeline Chiropractic, and I am here today with Jennifer Dotzert. She is the author and a local author, just so you guys know, of To Thee, O Lord, a Surrendered Yes. Hi Jennifer, thanks for joining
Hi,
today.
thank you for having me. So exciting.
I know, and just so you guys know, I have known Jennifer for quite a while, and I'm so happy to have her on here as a friend and author. And like I said, she's local. That's pretty exciting for us. So, Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about the book, and then we want to like kind of segue into how was the whole process of writing it? And if you guys have any questions, just post them below.
So this is our book, To Thee, O Lord, a Surrendered Yes. And it's kind of interesting the way I became involved with just the project in general, as I was attending some networking events a few years ago, and they were not like your cheesy networking events. They were, we really made some great connections. And one of the people that I really felt a strong connection with was Dr. Tuesday Tate. And she's actually the executive editor of our book, and she runs ATK Publishing. And it was kind of interesting because last year my word was surrender, because I'm a go, go, go type of person. And she reached out to me probably January or February, and she said, "We're getting ready to do this book, and I just think you'd be a great addition." And I was like, nobody wants to hear my story. I don't know what I would write about. Like, I'm going to have to think about it. And, you just have that little nudge, like something saying that this is something that maybe you should be doing. And so when she continued to explain what the premise of the book was, I was like, okay, I'm in. Tell me what I got to do.
Sign me up, huh?
Sign me up. And it wasn't a whole book. So the cool thing about our book too is there's actually 7 total authors. So you're not just reading one person's story, you're kind of reading, all their different stories, but they all kind of have that same tie through all their stories.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat how there were several authors, because you don't really see that much. And when you told me about your book, and of course I looked it up, and I was like, wow, how interesting, I thought the title was really catchy too. I was like, surrender, no way,
Yeah.
right? Who wants
Not
to do
something
that?
that we do very well. I
No.
still struggle with it.
I was like, no, that's not a good word. But tell us like about the book and the whole meaning behind surrendering to God.
So that's exactly it. It's based on, not my will, but your will be done. And each of us kind of took a different spin on how we've surrendered to the Lord and how it's altered our lives and altered, different outcomes. My specific chapter is surrendered yeses, because it's kind of a card effect, so to speak, or domino effect. My one surrendered yes led to another, led to another, led to another, led to another. And it's kind of how sometimes you look back and you see all that weaving and all that purpose and planning that you don't see sometimes in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, if only we had that hindsight to look back to if we just surrendered that first time, right? Or learned
Be a little
something,
bit easier.
or learned
Sometimes
something the first time, right?
sometimes we make things way more difficult than they need to be. It's kind of like somebody one time told me the story that we're running our head into the wall, over and over and over again. And we're like, Lord, why is this happening? And he puts his hands on our shoulders and moves us over, and then we can walk through the door. But it's like all this time we're running and running and running, and we're not aware of, some of the messages and the leading that he's giving us.
Yeah. Well, how long did it take you to write your chapter?
I don't, that'd probably be hard to put like a specific timeline. So what Dr. Tuesday did through her publishing is we had like a writer's workshop, And that was really interesting because at that very first writers workshop, we got to meet each other. We were celebrated, but we got to kind of put a face to these names that were going to be in the book. And we actually had to stand up and read our first 500 to 1,500 words out loud. There's nothing like being thrown back into middle school, like standing up and sharing, your piece or reading aloud in front of someone. But it was powerful to see all the different stories. And then I don't know if you're a Rachel Hollis fan.
Mm-hmm.
So the editor that works with Rachel Hollis was actually the professional editor that worked with us through ATK Publishing. So during part of that workshop, she Skyped in and could hear us read some of our stories, and she kind of gave us guidance from there. And then we all signed up for a deadline. So of course I picked my deadline was due when my kids were at camp. I figured if I needed to do some tweaking, I might have a little bit more quiet time that way. But we would turn it in, and then we had about a 2-week process once everything was turned in, where we worked with Dr. Tuesday and the editor, some of the minor things, but then also, sometimes when you're telling somebody a story, you just assume they know the backstory, or they assume,
Mm-hmm.
you're going with me in this story. And so there was a lot of like, explain this more, go a little deeper. When I was writing my chapter, I kind of just, when the house was quiet, I would get up, pour myself a cup of coffee or tea, and kind of just go for a little bit. And then when everybody started to stir, it was like, okay, I'll come back to this later. And
Mm-hmm.
so by doing that, again, I didn't really track how many times, but it filled up a lot faster than I thought it was going to.
Well, I feel like you're an overachiever, and I feel like you're like, all right, 1 week, got it done, moving on, ready for my next book.
Well, not so much feeling like an overachiever lately. Talk about surrendering to his plan and slowing everything down. But it helped doing it quietly and, without interruption. But, even going back and reading it now and having other people read it who know me personally, oh, well, why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you do this? Or you should have gone deeper into that. And hindsight, as you said, hindsight is 2020. So maybe there's something more in there. I don't know, but it was great doing something like this with the publishing firm and with Dr. Tuesday to kind of guide us through it. I don't know that had I just done it like, woohoo, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to mark this off my list, that it probably would still be sitting on my hard drive somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have someone push you like that. But even like the group like that, so you didn't maybe feel like you had to write the whole book, and you could do the chapter and grow that way. I mean, so amazing.
Yeah.
So it was published last year in 2019, correct?
Yeah.
And then when did you start it, at the beginning of 2019? I was just trying to look at that timeline.
Yeah, I want to say like our very first like meeting was sometime in March. And then we all had to have, a certain point, I think it was like around May. And then my time with the editor was mid-June, and everything had to be done by mid-July, and then actually went to print in August. So we were allowed to get some pre-orders then. And then we had a big book signing in September, and that was when the book was officially launched, and we could share it with people.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So kind of when you think about March to September, sometimes it seems like that's a big chunk, but it went very quickly.
I bet. I can only imagine. Wow. Well, is there anything else about the book that you want to tell us? Like any of your favorite like parts of it or favorite chapters? We don't want you to reveal everything, so we want you guys to go out and get this book.
Knowing that we were going to talk about it, I kind of flipped through it and read through it again. And I just love how every author ties back into that surrendering. And there's and it was so cool being around all the different authors and learning their stories and meeting them. So I don't know if I could pick one thing. That'd be hard because they're all so different, and yet there's that same thread that runs through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of nice too, like we said, with having different authors. If you're not somebody, I devour books personally, but if for somebody who just wants to read a little bit at a time, you can almost pick it up and, read one author's story and kind of put it back down, and then read another author's story and put it back down. You don't have to read it, cover to cover. So that's kind of nice too.
Great. Well, I know that the book is for sale on Amazon. I assume that's probably the best way to get the book right now, especially since we can't get out much.
Well, Amazon, or I do have personal copies at my home. And so local people I can deliver, but I've shipped them as well. So
nice. Yeah,
I can get you the hookup on some extra copies of the book.
We won't post your address below, but Jennifer is in the area. She's in Noblesville, so she is local. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any questions, but we do have Kathy Davis saying hi, that she used to teach with you at Clay Middle School.
Yes. Hi, Kathy. Yeah, Kathy and I worked together at Clay Middle School.
Add that to your list of accomplishments in your life, Jennifer.
I've survived teaching. Now let's hope I can survive the last couple of days of e-learning.
Yes, you can. All right. Well, if anyone has any comments later or any questions, just reach out. We'll have some links underneath. But thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing this whole process, and maybe it'll encourage some other women to write. I know that on my bucket list is to write a book. And I love the idea of maybe not being the only author. So I'll have to maybe search out some others for help.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I think it's very it can be very therapeutic and just very peaceful to share your story, and you never know what part of your story might unlock something in somebody else's story. So again, that domino effect, me sharing my story or somebody else sharing their story in this book could really make the difference to somebody else. And so I think it's kind of our responsibility sometimes to share our own story. So I would personally sign up to purchase your book immediately.
You're so wonderful. I love you. All right, everyone, go out and buy this book. You will not be disappointed. I'll post a link later, and I'm sure Jennifer can comment below later too.
Yeah, and I can always drop off copies at the office too.
That's true.
Because you got to go see Dr. Hillary. She's the best.
Thanks.